Did you know that they actually do have names? We learned that potentially the actor who plays Javi filmed additional scenes for season 2.
And I felt like we were doing like a forensic files
Yes.
thing where you're literally
we
like
needed the
zooming in and looking at the
triangulation
nose.
software, right? Going back to the trophy theory that we came up with and Akilah being dead, I am now going to completely poke holes in it anyway.
She was telling me there's this spirit in the room.
Was Ashley Sutton portraying a psychic?
No, she was portraying Ashley Sutton.
It doesn't matter if you're on the street who's in the background. It does matter when you have a plane crash and you're out in the wilderness and the people are then going to eat each other. It absolutely matters how many people are out there.
Hey, it's Doug and Brady here from Seaview Circle. You know us from the Yellowjackets recaps. And today, at long last, we are presenting the Yellowjackets Audit version 2.0.
Finally. Not so fast, self. Hi, I'm coming to you from the future. Well, no, I guess technically it's still the past because I'm in the midst of editing this episode. But I did want to take some time and thank you for your patience in the delay of this episode and sort of explain how the reason for the delay kind of mirrors the whole reason why we're doing this episode in the first place. Now, you may remember from our first Extrajackets audit that we touted this as the ultimate guide to the Yellowjackets Extrajackets. But if that were the case, then why would we feel compelled to do a part 2? Well, the first version of the Extrajackets audit ended up being one of our most successful Yellowjackets videos on YouTube. And it also spawned some of our most viewed shorts over on our TikTok. So naturally, all of that viewership ended up generating a lot of really great questions and comments, some of which we felt we needed to address, to sort of add to or enhance what we said in our first episode, or in some cases, correct, some mistakes that we made. Now, this time out, we are taking a different approach to how we, count the Extrajackets that are out there. Instead of just relying solely on who we see on screen from episode to episode, we are instead going to honor or admit that, Yellowjackets is a scripted television show that is filmed by a production company that is subject to interference from outside forces, right? Outside forces like a global pandemic that may shut down production of your season 1 a good year and a half after your pilot was greenlit. Or outside forces like a combined writers and actor strike, which delays production between your season 2 and season 3 by several months, right? We cannot deny that these setbacks and, potentially a change in location impacts the players, the performers that are available to be there on the shooting day and then ultimately appear in the finished product, right? And this kind of brings us to the production of this podcast episode, because originally we had intended to interview some people that may have pertinent information on this topic. But after a certain amount of time, we just have not been able to make those schedules align. And so now we are left with the dilemma. Do we already release what we recorded, or do we wait for the interviews? Well, we are deciding to move ahead and show what we have recorded, because the longer we wait, the higher we run the risk of having to readjust what we've already recorded to satisfy any new information that may come to light, which is precisely why I am re-recording this intro right now. Now, before we get to the episode, we do want to thank all of you who have helped us in this current round of Citizen Detective research. You may not even know that you assisted us. So if you stick around to the end of the episode, we'll put up a slide that shows all of those people. We also do ask that you please like, comment, and subscribe. We are really looking to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. And of course, it's the comments from our first Extrajackets audit that inspired the need for this version 2.0. Okay, we are now going to return to our regularly scheduled programming. Hopefully, we're going to be catching up with the conversation right around the time that our first viewer comments that Yellowjackets has established that there are 18 soccer players on the team, and that should be the basis for our count going forward into episode 1. Someone stated, there are 18 players on this Yellowjackets soccer team. They've been represented on screen, in a lineup or in a team photo multiple times. And then, of course, there was this New Jersey Journal newspaper article, which, I don't know, it had merged at some point, like on social media. And I don't know, you did some research.
Yeah, know what? From the information I was getting, I just kept seeing that it was like a fan-produced newspaper.
Okay.
And what's interesting is somebody is selling these newspapers
Of course they
on
are.
Etsy. So I think,
even though originally they said it had come from the Yellowjackets art department, this seems to be fan-made.
Yep.
It does say in the newspaper article that there are 19 girls out there in the plane crash. That would be the 18 players plus Misty. So if this isn't real, we can't technically say for sure in universe that this is true.
Maybe somebody at some point from the Yellowjackets Instagram, like the official, had posted the image of the newspaper.
Oh, they did?
I think that they had reposted it or something. So I think that's why people thought maybe it's legit.
Okay.
But
I think we probably will get confirmation of this number in season 4 when the Yellowjackets return, right? I mean, it has to be. There will be fanfare. There will be an actual newspaper article that will come out about this, right?
Oh, completely, because we know that's the direction they're going.
Now, for the sake of our Extrajackets Audit 2.0, we are just going to go out on a limb, though, here, and we are going to agree with this viewer comment. We are going to say that there were 18 players plus Misty, and that number made sense to us when we started to chew back through all of these episodes, okay? So here we are in the pilot episode. This is a shot in the rally scene. Remember, the pilot was shot in Los Angeles. This is 2019. We see our main Yellowjackets here on the left-hand side, and we see a slew of Extrajackets over there on the right side. Now, unfortunately, this cannot be considered as canon, in universe, because this was shot as a pilot before the producers ever even knew whether or not the show was going to be picked up. And I think that the rest of these Extrajackets here, I think they were probably cast originally because they could probably play soccer. Right? Because we see them in these other scenes. We see some of these same people. They're in the scrimmage scene, and they're also in that first opening scene where the Yellowjackets team wins the game that eventually takes them to nationals. So at this point, we're not going to spend too much time on these people because the slate is wiped clean after this episode.
Right. They were like a one and done.
Yeah,
exactly.
Much. Right. And again, had the production decided to film here in Los Angeles, which would make, not a lot of sense, but if they did, then maybe they would pursue keeping those background actors or turning them into whoever they had envisioned later on. All right. Now, we will say, though, that in this lineup, our viewer mentioned that number 14 is missing, and we can say that here. So when we look at these people here over on the right, we just plopped in the people that we know attributed to the jerseys that we know. We don't know technically who jersey 3 or 4 is, although I will say that we have finally determined that jersey number 12 is not Proto Robin. Why? Well, we know that because, again, this was in Los Angeles, and the background actor who plays Proto Robin would have been up in Vancouver, right? So we're going to move forward with that in a bit. And also, jersey 14 that is missing there, that would be our Proto Crystal. We also notice here in this little tight shot here that number 16 is a Proto Jen, because in the later team photos, we do see Jen Milo wearing that jersey. And again, Milo is a Vancouverite actress. So she would not have been here either filming in Los Angeles. Again, we have to remember that there are 4 different production timelines for Yellowjackets. There's the pilot in 2019 in Los Angeles. Then there was the pandemic. After it had been picked up, they had to wait until everybody could go back to work safely. That was in 2021. And that's where it picked up in Vancouver. And this is a huge tool, thinking of it this way, right? Thinking it in this new lens of the production, because it helps us to unravel this Extrajackets mystery of who is out there on screen and why. Okay. For example, we have Kia King and we have Alexa Barajas, right? Akila and Mari. They were not even cast until June 2021, long after that initial rally lineup in the pilot of episode 1. So that means that their scene showing them boarding the plane here had to be shot in 2021 at the same time as the production of episode 2. 2. In fact, we can surmise that all of the season 1 plane scenes were all shot at the same time around the production of episode 2 of season 1. We know this because there is some IMDb trivia that states that the director Jamie Travis, who directed F Sharp episode 2, also directed pickup shots for the pilot once production of season 1 resumed in 2021 after the pandemic. So we know that all of these plane scenes were done at the same time. All right. So now let's go back and discuss who is actually wearing these different jerseys. And the first thing we want to correct in our version 2.0 is we want to officially say that Akila is number 11. She is number 11 because she's taking over for Allie, who had the injury, and Allie was number 11 in that previous photo we just saw.
Right.
So now we have these shots from season 3, which also corroborate. Now, these are, vision sequences, but we do see Akila wearing jersey number 11. So that is a change that we are making in our slides. Now, many people were commenting on one of our TikTok clips. Many people presumed that number 15 had to be Rachel Goldman. I don't know why they would think that. Maybe just because she's the first one who we don't know is numbered there. I don't know. But it makes no sense because the person that is wearing number 15 appears at the funeral for Rachel Goldman in episode 3.
So she's not a ghost. She's going to be... Yeah. So I guess it's not her.
So Rachel Goldman has to be the blonde girl impaled by the metal rod that sits in front of Misty on the plane because she is the only teammate that the Yellowjackets mentioned dying at the funeral after the initial crash.
Well, her and Coach Ben's leg.
So this, of course, though, does beg the question, who is this?
Who is that?
Who is this girl flailing at the front of the plane?
Brownish hair, or maybe blonde. I don't know.
All right. Well, we're going to get to that in just a bit. Let's get back to the team photo here, which many other people on TikTok also commented that number 17 has to be a Proto-Brit.
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 Proto.
It cannot be true because these two people actually greet each other as they board the plane in the pilot. There is Proto-Brit, as portrayed by Princess Davis, and there is our number 17. Now, what's weird is we can make a notation that Princess Davis, the season 1 Proto-Brit, does not appear in this photo. We'll get back to that again in a little bit. Now, let's revisit a comment from our recap of episode 5 from season 3. That number 18 had to be Rachel Goldman and not Proto-Melissa as we initially proposed. Now, I guess people thought that because she's also blonde.
Yeah.
But we still stand by this claim that number 18 absolutely is Proto-Melissa because we have since compared the facial features to conclude that this background performer is the same person who portrays Proto-Melissa in episode 2 and episode 3 of season 1.
And right? I can confirm, I felt like we were doing like a forensic files thing where you're literally like
we needed the
zooming in
the triangulation
and looking at the nose.
Software, right?
Yeah, we needed all that stuff. We needed, the announcer?
Peter Graves.
Peter Graves. Well, that's what we needed for that one.
So we discovered through various modes of sleuthing, right, which we performed for this episode, that this background actor's name is Christina. We didn't catch a last name. But we will continue to see her up through episode 5 of season 1.
So who played Rachel Goldman?
Patience, Doug. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right. So now taking into account our new approach of looking at the extra jacket count through the lens of TV production, we can deduce that this photo was taken at the same time of the production of episode 2 and episode 3. How do we know this? Well, we know this because extra jackets who only appear in episodes 2 and 3 are featured in it. One of these is the background actor Vivian Hotami, who is our Proto Crystal number 14. She also appears in the No Return theme intro that makes its debut in episode 3.
Right.
So it's entirely plausible that the, that grainy VHS footage from the intro with the Yellowjackets wearing their jerseys.
It was all filmed at the same time.
Was all shot on the same day as the photo.
That
right?
makes sense. Totally.
And we can also surmise that the individual photos that would later appear in this team composite, which is displayed in the trophy case, were also shot on the same day.
Yeah.
Because the majority of them, if you can tell,
Hairstyles all look the same.
The hairstyles are the same. And if you notice, they're all shot with natural lighting, outdoor lighting, right? Just like this, right? With a couple exceptions. We'll get to that. All right. So now back to Rachel Goldman. In our previous version of the Extrajackets audit, we suggested that the person Shauna sees flailing was Rachel. But we can see that this person's hair is longer. And we can also deduce that there's no way they'd be able to take off their Yellowjackets jersey and also sit down
and run back to the chair and strap themselves.
Right. This is a turbulent descent. This is all happening, in seconds, right? So at this point, we have to guess that this person is the stunt performer, Allie Dunn. Okay. She's credited on IMDb for this episode, right? And Allie's fellow Yellowjackets stunt performer, Kia Stewart, she's also credited on IMDb for these episodes. She posted some great photos of them and other people from the stunt team on set during the production of episodes 2 and 3. And in this particular instance, I think she is not portraying the Proto Melissa, because the Proto Melissa is wearing the red and white striped t-shirt. And then this weird, they doubled up the character, I think, because here we have another Melissa, right?
There was a sale on flannel that day.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think that she's supposed to be either Melissa in this moment. She's like kind of an anomaly, and we cannot really ascertain who this is. And so for the sake of this new approach, focusing on the production of the show, we're just going to disregard this person, unfortunately, as like a continuity mistake, right? We cannot include her in the official count that consists of the 18 soccer players, the equipment manager, Misty Quigley, the coaches, the crew, and the Martinez gentlemen. Okay, so now that we've kind of gotten through episode 1, let's do this thing we did before, right? Which is the total count of people that are there. We said in our first episode that there were 26 passengers on the plane, and there still are, which is great. The total, though, that are appearing on the screen is only 24 because technically the pilots don't appear in the first episode. Okay? Now, moving on to episode 2. Many comments from TikTok were wondering which Yellowjacket went on fire during the opening kind of post-crash plane sequence, right? Well, I'm going to say that due to the updo, see a little updo?
Yeah. Yeah, the kids are not wearing an updo.
Right, exactly. This is the flight attendant, Janet. And this is actually corroborated not only by another of Kia Stewart's social media posts, which shows stunt performer Maja Aro. She's dressed as Janet from the production of this episode.
Her hair is up in that kind of bun thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's also an IMDb credit for Maja in this episode. What I think is interesting about this photo is that you notice she's wearing a face mask, right? This is behind the scenes moment. So we know that this further corroborates our suggestion that the scene she appears in for the pilot episode, where everyone is boarding the plane, was also filmed in 2021.
Right, because we were all still social distancing at that point, whenever possible.
Now, let's finally solve this Rachel situation, right? So another of Kia Stewart's social media images shows somebody who is wearing FX makeup, and she is tagged here as stunt performer Becky Ferguson. You can see that this is the same person wearing the same clothes with the same FX
right,
makeup.
And of course, it looks like she had a thing going right through her neck.
Right. Exactly.
Becky Ferguson.
Now, what is her jersey number? That's another one of these kind of hanging threads. Everybody doesn't really know 3 of these jersey numbers, who is who, but we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, now let's get into a bunch of these crash images. We showed a lot of them in our first Extrajackets audit. We have some new ones to show you here.
Okay.
Pilot Robert there, unfortunately, has met his demise there.
Yeah.
Now, we got some great images here. We see Melissa, too. Again, that is stunt performer Allie Dunn, who is portraying Melissa, even though the background actor portraying Proto Melissa is also in these scenes. That was a mistake, unfortunately. We have jersey number 15 there, right? Here, jersey 15 to the back, again to the back. Then these are some more photos that were taken on set by Kia Stewart. Here we have Melissa 2. Again, we kind of showed some of these photos before. Again, we have the Proto-Brit, Proto-Melissa there. Crystal 2, she's the other stunt performer, Kia Stewart. There she is in action. Proto-Robin is there wearing this dress, and we'll again see her show up later on. Number 15, Melissa 2. Again, that's Allie Dunn. Proto-Robin. Then brown hair shows up. Stunt performer brown hair was also in that photo that Kia Stewart posted with Becky Ferguson. She is shown there as well. Then we have number 17 here. That is background actor Jessica Bessem with Proto-Robin. Her name is Nora Killian. And there she is being worked on by our nurse.
By Nurse Misty.
By Nurse Misty. Ooh. Again, this is a great shot here. We see number 17 in the back and Proto-Robin as well with Jen, who, I think at the time we were considering was an extra jacket, but obviously we know she turns into a character later on. And again, this is a nice kind of long shot. There's a behind the scenes from this episode of Princess Davis and Maya Lowe. And then we're going to move into the fire pit scene here. This is towards the end. We found some new images there of our Proto-Brit. And then we also have this interesting image, which we got wrong the first time around. You see this little pocket of extra jackets in the back? Mm-hmm. Well, the background actress, Sydney Casnell, posted this image on her social media, which shows that she is there. Now, this is our red hair with braid.
Oh, okay. Red hair with braid. We've been going on about this forever.
Exactly. So there she is. And we do see that also Proto Crystal is there. And then we have Sarah McGinnis, right? This is number 15. That's who it is.
The infamous number 15, Sarah McGinnis.
And Proto Melissa, whose name was Christina. And then we have, in this shot over there, Jessica Bessem playing number 17. They're all ending their day, right? There's a wrap. It's a wrap. Okay. There's another image from the filming of F Sharp from Sydney Casnell that shows that they were probably there in the earlier crash scene, but we didn't really see them. If they're there, I don't know. It's a total blur.
And I love when they're on their phones too.
Yes.
Out in the middle of the forest.
Right, exactly. They just had a plane crash, and they just had they need to contact home, but they have the phone, luckily.
Yeah, I got a phone right here, so it's all good.
I think it's cool that they have their own outfits and their own personalities, these people that we never really got to know. I am curious. A lot of times, background, they ask the people to bring their clothes. I'm wondering if that is the case here. I would love to ask Sydney that question. So here we go. We are going to go into the count again of episode 2. We have the core 7, which we talked about this before. And if you remember, we kind of need to change it to the core 8 because we now know that the character of Melissa exists into adult timeline. But we're not going to do it just yet because still in season 1, she absolutely was an extra jacket. Let's be honest. Yeah. And then the other thing is technically, if we had filmed this during season 1, we definitely would have had Jackie as part of the core, but because we know she doesn't make it until adulthood, we are not going to include her here. Okay, so we'll get to the core 8 in season 2. But here we go. We have the core 7, the usual suspects of Coach Ben, Mari, Akila, Laura Lee, and Jackie. We have the hobby factor. Remember this? The reason we have him separate is because he disappears for a while. Then we have the extra jackets that all appear somewhere in this episode on screen. And we have the 3 stunt people, right? Now, again, we kind of missed an opportunity because we didn't really talk about them as stunt people in our first Extra Jackets audit. Although we did talk about it in our recap of episode 4 of season 3 because somebody had mentioned it and we talked about it. It was kind of, a continuity error because they used them incorrectly, especially in the next episode. And so we'll get to that. Then we have the section, we hardly knew yet. These are the 5 people that died in this episode. So we have Rachel, we have Pilot Robert, the crew member Janet, Pilot Fred, and Coach Martinez. Okay, so that's where we've got the total count, 5 casualties from the crash. Total presumed survivors at this point is 21. And the total count of people appearing on screen is 24. That includes the 3 stunt performers.
Right.
Okay.
So it's discrepancy, but hey.
And again, if you notice on this here, we don't have the jersey numbers for Rachel, red hair with braid, or Proto-Brit. I do think the fandom has said that Rachel is number 3, Proto-Brit is number 4, and red hair with braid is number 12. We could say, in a way, it's nebulous.
Okay.
All right, now moving into episode 3. This, of course, was the famous photo that really started everybody's interest in the Extrajackets, right? Because it has so many people in this nice little configuration here. To be perfectly honest, we don't really have any new information to add about this funeral scene. We've already talked about these people. They're all shown here very clearly, and very clearly as not being Rachel Goldman, because she's the one that has been buried.
Yeah.
Picking up later into the episode, we have the same configuration from the last episode where it was nighttime. Now this is morning. So it's the same people that are over there in that little pocket over there, and some different people over here, and they're having breakfast. Now, as we move forward into the episode, this is where Ty suggests that it's been 3 days and maybe they should go to the lake and move away from the plane. And Jackie says, no, I think we should stay. So they put it to a vote and they decide to go to the lake. And so there's just these nice shots where a lot of these people are here. Now, you'll notice that in these shots, you see the Extrajackets there, but you don't see the stunt performers. But then, as soon as we start walking to the lake...
Then you got the stunt.
Then we got the stunt performers. So we have our Crystal number 2 there. We have Melissa number 2. And we have, again, the Extrajackets Proto Robin. And we didn't really talk about this when we had the opportunity, but, you know, I've actually done some background acting myself. And
You don't say.
In fact, I worked quite a bit in seasons 1 and 2 of Westworld, where there were a lot of stunt performers, right? Because there's so many people that are riding horseback and all this kind of stuff. So all these stunts going on all the time, people shooting people, people falling, whatever. And the thing is, you know, usually the stunt person comes in to portray the lead actor that, you know, they don't want to risk getting hurt, right? These stunt performers are skilled in whatever they're going to be doing, how to do it safely. And so that's why this is kind of not so great, because in the same shots, you have both the person who is the stunt person for Melissa, but also the Melissa in the same shot. And you also have who we're calling...
Well, maybe they just needed some extra bodies, so to speak.
But they didn't, because then that is affecting the count of how many people are out there. I always say this is what we said last time.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It doesn't matter if you're on the street of Vancouver and you're watching a car crash, who's in the background. It does matter when you have a plane crash and you're out in the wilderness and the people are then going to eat each other. It absolutely matters how many people are out there. That's why we were so interested in the Extrajackets in the first place, because you can't have suddenly these people and then they disappear, right? So it was a continuity error to have these people.
I just say that's showbiz, kids.
That is showbiz. And you know, here's the other thing you have to imagine is that the stunt performers are more expensive as well than the background actors. So in essence, in this scene here, they should have had Melissa 2 taking over for the Proto Melissa and the Crystal 2 taking over for Proto Crystal. And then we also have brown hair again. So brown hair is like, she's a one and done. She's there and she's never there again. She doesn't really represent anybody, you know?
Got it.
One other thing I did want to mention about this sequence is that in our first episode, we actually swapped our Proto Melissa and our Melissa 2. So somebody caught that in the YouTube comment. I appreciate that. We did have it incorrect. So Melissa 2 is the stunt person. That makes sense because it carries through to the other episode. And Proto Melissa is this person here. Again, that's the background actor, Christina, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting is that when they finally do get to the lake, Proto Crystal and Proto Melissa are missing. So maybe that was shot on a different day. And they course corrected and realized, oh, we shouldn't have the background and the stunt person at the same time. So we do see the stunt people out in the water. We see brown hair and we see Melissa too when they're playing that game of chicken. Because again, I guess that you could consider that a bit of a stunt.
Yeah,
right?
That's a stunt. Yeah. I would count that as a stunt.
And they fall off and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's interesting that you can see that they kind of made that decision maybe later on. All right. So our count for the dollhouse is the core 7, the usual suspects, the hobby factor, the Extrajackets that appear on screen, as well as the stunt people. Again, we're still at the same count. Total number of survivors, 21. Total account seeing on screen, including the stunt performers, is 24. Now, sadly, after this episode, we never see number 17 again, as portrayed by Jessica Bessem. She does appear, though, in that composite photo in the trophy case that we'll see later on in episode 10. And this episode is also the last time that we will see Sydney Kesnell as red hair with braid.
Aww.
But will that particular extra jacket reappear, Doug?
Stay tuned to the podcast.
Yes, indeed. Now, I guess it was like another missed opportunity for us in our first Extra Jackets audit not to officially say that we were retconning the total number of survivors to eliminate the stunt people that we never see again. But we kind of did. We just didn't say it. So now we can just say that they were never part of the official count anyway.
Okay.
Moving into episode 4, we did find this new image. This is when I guess Travis and Natalie are bringing back the deer. We see Proto Brit there. There she is. There's a nice little shot of her there. But again, we don't really have any change in the count here. We just have the extra jackets that we do see, and the extra jackets that we presume at this point are still out there, right? We presume these people are still there because at this point we know that in some episodes we're going to see them, and some episodes we're not. So we're not going to really change anything quite yet. We just show that the total presumed survivors based off the previous episode is still 21, and the total amount of people appearing on screen is 15. All right, moving into the Blood Hive, we only have, well, actually, that's not true. I was going to say this is the only scene we have extra jackets, but I do think there is a moment outside of the cabin where you see jersey number 15. But in this seance, we have a nice shot here. We have Proto Brit there. There's Proto Melissa in the back and number 15. So that's a nice little moment. Proto Melissa there is ghosting out there. This is the, I guess, further away shot here when Lottie has that moment where, I don't know, she's possessed by the cabin daddy. The first
cabin daddy comes to her.
And there's a nice little shot there across the way. Again, that's jersey number 15 in the Wiskeock t-shirt, ringer tee. So again, we have the same thing. We have the same count, the extra jackets that we do see on camera, and then the ones that presumably should still be there. It's the same number of survivors that we can presume, and then the number appearing on screen is 17. Going into episode 6, we just have a couple new images we found. That's a great image of Proto Brit that we used for our What You Packin' costume special.
She looks very good for somebody just being out in the wilderness. You know, she's got her eye makeup, lipstick. She's looking good.
Yeah, and all the clothes are still clean by episode 6. Look at that. This is when they bring back another deer, but this one's like diseased, and you can see there towards the end, we do have Proto Brit and Jen there as well.
Right.
We got the same count, the extra jackets we see on screen and the ones that we don't, and it's the same number of presumed survivors. Now, here we go. This, unfortunately, is where the count is going to change.
Yep.
Because our dear Laura Lee.
We're losing Laura. Kaboom!
Oh my gosh, Doug. Sadly, we have to change the count now. Oh, by the way, no extra jackets appear in this episode, which is kind of strange. You'd think that if there was this momentous occasion of them having the opportunity to fly out of there, they'd be there, but they were not. So there's a post-crash death. And the total count of presumed survivors now is only 20, with the total count appearing on screen as 13. All right, moving into Doomcoming. This is exciting, right? Here's a behind the scenes. Yeah, behind the scenes image there. You see Princess Davis there. Everybody else is kind of more someone we see all the time. There's a couple crew people there, I guess. But what we missed from the first time out was this amazing long shot inside the cabin, which shows number 15 over here and Proto Robin. And then Proto Brit over there, of course, is wearing the famous sweater, which we talked about in our What You Packin'.
Don't get us started on the clothes.
Let's not. Well, I have one note about the clothes. We'll get to it. Then if you go outside, we still see some of these extra jackets. We just missed this for some reason. There's number 15 right there working on some, I don't know, piece.
Patchwork?
Yeah, something for the Doomcoming experience that they're about to have. And then look, Proto Robin just walks by. Never noticed that before. And then it's the continuation of that scene. You see number 15 there. And again, you see Proto Robin walking by there. Now, getting to the actual Doomcoming, you know, a lot of these pictures we're going to see here are the same. However, we can now confirm actually that Proto Melissa does not appear in this episode. Now they have properly used a stunt performer. Once again, this is Allie Dunn, who is taking over for Proto-Melissa, the background actor Christina, because she's going to perform a stunt in this episode later on. So this was confirmed by somebody, I think, who sent in a YouTube comment, and then I did some research and found out, again, the IMDb credit is Ali Dunn for the stunts. So that's why we have her there. There's a shot of number 15, and then we have all these great images that show that Proto-Robin was also there, Proto-Brit was there, just a bunch of photos from the Doom Coming. This was obviously probably the most dramatic fashion-wise moment they had in season 1, and they wanted to show it off. So there's just a lot of images here that show these people from all different angles. That's kind of, it's interesting because everybody from the Yellowjackets team that's out there should be there right now, but we are missing Proto Crystal. She is not there. Red hair with braid should be there technically right now, but she is not there. Then, as we get to the night after they are tripping on the mushrooms.
Tripping on magical mushrooms.
They decide that Travis is the stag. So they're going to chase him. So you see, actually, Melissa number 2, Ali Dunn, the stunt performer, running out of the cabin after them. Oh. There she is again. You see them running through the forest, and this is where she falls. So you can see there's a stunt there. And then when they come back, you see her again there. I think it's interesting because she's wearing these crew socks. Yeah. I swear that later on Melissa wears crew socks too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting continuity, right? So again, we have in the Doom Coming, it's now a slightly different situation here because we have Melissa 2, the stunt actor, portraying the extra jacket there. And then we have the extra jackets that don't appear. Oh yeah, number 17 wasn't there either, right? So again, now that Laura Lee's gone, we have 20 survivors and 17 people appearing on screen. All right. Now, we're going to move into episode 10, and this is where we have to discuss our most famous TikTok post we've ever had. Do you remember what it was? Do you remember what it was about?
Well, refresh my memory for me.
Refresh my memory! I love it. This short has over 650,000 views. And this was where we proposed that when Natalie goes to the high school reunion and she sees all these images in here, that at this point we knew that Javi was going to die because his photo is in the case. And you imagine that they are honoring the legacy of these people.
Right.
Now, why? Well, we thought so because in episode 1 of season 3, there was Natalie's photo all of a sudden in the case after we knew she died as an adult at the end of season 2, right? So there she's looking at all these people. We assumed that we knew that Javi at that time would die in season 2 or at some point. Mm-hmm. Now, what makes this theory kind of like a great little Easter egg, actually, is that when this Yellowjackets episode first aired, much of the Yellowjackets fandom was presuming that Adam Martin was the adult version of Javi, right?
I thought so, too. I remember.
But if the photo in the case is showing Javi, and our theory is correct, then we know that Adam Martin could have been Javi because he already would have died as a child. Because if he had died as an adult, then his adult photo would be in the case.
Right.
Now, we made no mention of Aquila in that first Extra Jackets audit being in this trophy case. But when we put that post up on TikTok, everybody freaked out because Aquila's photo is right there. So everybody thought, if our theory was correct, then you could surmise that, even if Nia Sundaya has since been promoted to series regular in season 4, that Aquila's fate is doomed. She will not make it into adulthood. What do you think about that?
Well, at this point, when they're looking at the thing, maybe they think she didn't make it into adulthood. Mm-hmm. However, I'm really hoping that she does make it into adulthood.
I really hope so, too, because I think it will set up some really good storyline for season 4. But going back to the trophy theory that we came up with, right, and her possibly being dead, I am now going to completely poke holes in it anyway, because, it's like ghost hunters, right? If you have a ghost appearing, you had a dream about Ashley Sutton.
I did have a ghost dream last night.
Do you want to quickly tell that?
Oh, it's really weird. She was telling me, when you walk into this room, be careful. There's this spirit in the room that is controlling these pots and pans that were just suspended in midair, And then they warned me that when you walk in, they might just drop suddenly, like the spirit or whatever.
So I don't get it. Was Ashley Sutton portraying a psychic?
No, she was portraying Ashley Sutton. It's very tied into this Yellowjackets, I think. It just feels very
going back
creepy.
to what I'm about to say about Ghost Hunters, if you were on Ghost Hunters, you would have to come up with another reason as to why the pots and pans are suspended in air, right? You have to poke holes in it, even though you want it to be true. And so the same thing here. Let's poke holes into another reason why Akila's photo would be there. Because if she had died and they wanted to honor her, that's great. But why isn't Laura Lee's photo separated out? Why isn't Jackie's photo separated out? Now, Jackie's jersey is there, right? Because she's the original antler queen of the Yellowjackets, right? She's the team captain. Okay. Big sense. But why is Mari's photo not there, right? All right. So now look at this. Whose photo in this composite image is missing? There's only 15 people here, and there should be 18, right, on the team. Well, it's interesting because Allie's not on here. Allie was injured. But technically, if this was a composite that was made like for the varsity girls soccer team, right, that's what it says at the bottom in 1996, you think that Allie would be in there. So that's kind of weird. Now, someone else who is missing is Rachel Goldman. Right? Rachel Goldman's not there, conveniently, because Becky Ferguson was a stunt performer and she wasn't there on the day where they shot that team photo, which we've already ascertained is the same day that they took all these other photos, right? Akila's also not in this image, here. Right?
But wasn't she from the junior varsity too?
She was from the junior varsity. That's exactly what we're going to get into, right? Akila was replacing Allie. And so when you look at her photo there, people have ascertained that she's jersey number 3, but that would have been her photo from the junior varsity team. So that's why I'm now saying that she's singled out. That's why Coach Ben is singled out. That's why the Martinez brothers are singled out. It's just because she wasn't in the composite photo because she wasn't part of the varsity soccer.
Right. So maybe it's not an indication that she was dead. It's just that she's represented as one of the survivors.
Exactly. So now you can't really tell because it's so blurry. I can't really tell if that photo was taken on the same day as the team photos because she was actually there for that. And when you look at the team photo of Akila, you cannot see her jersey number. It's like really, really dark. Remember, Proto Brit was not in the photo. But if you notice in this composite, she is there. She's right there. So she had to have her photo taken at a different time. And she did. Because Princess Davis posted this photo to her social media that shows her with the same hairdo that appears in the composite photo. Now, the weird thing is that she's wearing jersey number 16. Well, that doesn't make sense because we know that jersey 16 is Jen because we see her wearing that. But you can't really rely on that, right? We have to say here that because this photo was taken specifically for that cropped image that was going to appear in that composite, we don't see her jersey number.
Right. They didn't want, maybe they just needed
whatever's available. Right.
Yeah.
Right. What's also interesting is you can tell that this photo was taken during the production of episode 10 where the composite photo appears because you can see in the background this brick wall and it's the same brick wall that you see right here.
Yeah, it's done at the school. In the
hallway of the high school reunion. See how it makes sense? The TV production, it all fits together. Okay. Now, speaking of the reunion, we have adult Allie here giving tribute to the Yellowjackets. And if you remember, there were a couple more snapshots. There we have number 15 once again. This is pre-everything. Pre-everything. And then we have Proto Crystal again, number 14. So I think that it's actually the last time you're going to officially see Proto Crystal, right? Because she, in season 2, will be portrayed by a different person. Okay. Now,
moving right along
to the same episode. In our first Extrajackets audit, we failed to include this scene that includes Extrajackets, right? This is Proto Robin, number 15, and Proto-Brit, and there they are on the porch of the cabin, witnessing that tragic moment where Shauna finds Jackie's body in the snow. What is interesting about when we were going through this for these slides, there's an error we had in our What's Your Packet episode now. Because
we're okay. We never said that we would actually have all the answers. We just try our best.
That's right.
They can change.
That's right. We said there could be some errors. And here is one, because we thought that this particular wardrobe piece, which is a kind of a white sweatshirt with these kind of silver roses, we thought that this debuted in season 3 with Brit. But we can see here that Jen is wearing it in this scene. And what's interesting is that in a social media post from Maya Lowe's Instagram from season 2, you see her wearing it there as well. This is behind the scenes moment where she's being slapped by Nuha Jess Isman. But you must imagine that sometime during season 2, when Crystal's still part of the cast, that she's also wearing that. So we stand corrected. Okay, now moving back over to the episode. Of course, we have this moment as Jackie is passing, this kind of vision, and we have some of the extra jackets there as well. Again, there's Proto Robin. There is Jen, who is still an extra jacket at the time. There's
Ghost Laura Lee coming back.
Right, exactly. Yeah, technically, I didn't really include that in the count. But we also have this scene too. Oh, that's a nice shot of Proto-Brit there from that lineup. And then we also have Proto-Brit appearing in the dinner where they're eating the bear meat. I feel like that's the same day they must have taken that photo, because it's the same hair style.
Pink jacket.
That's a little different, you know? And then over here we have, this is the first scene of the episode, really, when Lottie kills the bear. You see number 15 and Proto Robin in the back. So for our final count for season 1, oh my God, we're still in season 1. We have the core 7, the usual suspects. We have the extra jackets that appear on screen, and then all of these who do not appear on screen, although technically, I guess, some of them appear in that composite photo. And we have a death now, because now we have Jackie's dying.
Gone.
So our total count of presumed survivors is 19, and total count appearing on screen is 15. And I will say, at this point, we never see number 15 again. Now, if you remember in our first Extra Jackets audit, we were always talking about number 15.
Yeah.
We presumed that she was the other extra jacket, spoiler alert, that appears in season 2 that's not Proto Robin or Proto Brit. And we said that because she was the one who appeared the most in season 1 that was not later recast. But when we look at the extra jackets who appear in season 2, and we're about to get to it, she doesn't look like them.
Nope.
So that's it. Number 15, she's gone. She's missing as of that point. All right, moving into season 2, there are no images that we're going to show you, but we are now going to officially change the core 7 to core 8 with Melissa into the mix. Why? Because Jenna Burgess joins Maya Lowe and Nuha Jess Isman as part of the group here officially with actual names, right? That's where we got these
graduation names to begin with.
Day. It's a graduation day. That's why when we found out that she was also graduated to series regular for season 4, on our social media post, I put a pink graduation hat on her, right?
Oh, hat.
Yes. In the comments of our last episode, which was the Yellowjackets Revelations, there was a comment that led us to some other content that shed additional light on the production of season 2. And I mean, if we're going to recontextualize our Extra Jackets audit based off the fact that television production affects who you see on screen, then we also have to acknowledge the fact that, you know, the powers that be and other elements of production can also affect who you don't see on screen. And we learned that potentially the actor Luciano LaRue, who plays Javi, that he had filmed additional scenes for season 2 that were cut. And they were cut because they related to that infamous lost season 2 episode about the Cabin Daddy's backstory. So supposedly these scenes would have appeared in episodes like 1, 2, and maybe 3 of season 2. So if we had known that when we recorded our first Extra Jackets audit last year, then we never would have segregated Javi out of the, you know, usual suspects when we're doing our episode tallies. We wouldn't have had the Javi factor, right? And if we had known about these missing scenes when we recorded this version of our Extra Jackets audit, we also would have included him in the usual suspects and not had him in his own category. Now, ultimately, what we name our categories for our Extra Jacket tally really has no bearing on the data in the end. But I just wanted to highlight that to show you that the powers that be, behind the scenes, production changes can affect what you ultimately see in the finished product. We're going to kind of change this up a little bit. We have the core 8, the usual suspects, the hobby factor, who's missing right now, actually, right? He's missing since the Doom coming, since Shauna told him to run.
Right.
But then we have these missing jackets. Okay. None of these people appear, but according to the last episode, we should still expect them to be there. So total presumed survivors is 19. Total count appearing on screen is 13. Future me breaking in here again to tell you that everything that I just said is simply not true. Because here I am on the final day of editing this video, and I come across this image, which clearly shows that there are extra jackets featured in this opening scene from episode 1 of season 2. Most of our core people can be explained away. They're elsewhere in the cabin or elsewhere in the scene, but we still have additional bodies here too, in fact, that we cannot determine really who they are. Now, that person wearing the coral colored sweatshirt that features very prominently in this press photo, it looks very familiar to a sweatshirt that will be worn by a season 2 extra jacket in just a bit, and we'll show you that. And here we have another angle which shows, again, there's clearly somebody right there to the side of Travis and Natalie as they're walking to the front door. It's very dark. It's very hard to see, but that person is there. So the total count appearing on screen is not 13, but actually 15. We just can't really ascertain who everybody is because they're all bundled up in multiple layers of sleepwear. And trust me, I'm not going to torture myself by looking deeper into episodes 2 and 3, which we've already established have no extra jackets and no change in the total count. So let's just get back to the episode already in progress and pick up in episode 4, where we will meet some of these season 2 extra jackets. And we want to thank our viewers for letting us know that in our first extra jacket audit, we missed a scene completely, and it is this one. This is important because the inclusion of the extra jackets in this scene actually changes the direction of our overall viewpoint as to who still may be out there, right? We just talked about it. Number 15, we don't think is there because the person who is there looks more like, in my opinion, red hair with braid. So let's get to it. This is when Javi is brought back in episode 4, and you can't really see it in this image, but as we get closer, you see this person
her.
Here,
yeah.
right?
That's her.
Well, it's not her. It's not the same actress.
Okay.
But we're going to say it's her.
Yeah.
And then we see this person over here who we're going to say is the season 2 proto Brit. Now, the person who left us the YouTube viewer comment also mentioned that Nuha Jess Isman, who portrays Crystal, there she is, she put up a social media post, I think after her last episode aired, right? And she posted the season 2 extra jackets. Here they are.
Oh, wow.
There is Emma Bonner. She is who we are calling season 2 red hair with braid, even though maybe she has blonde hair. I don't know. But
a reddish
close.
Blonde.
Yeah. Then we have Audrey Steff, who is our season 2 proto Brit, and Kim Allison, who we will see in just a little bit as season 2 proto Robin. There's some behind the scenes shots there from Audrey Steff on her
I love
Instagram.
seeing the behind the scenes.
Right? And what's cool is, again, these people have their own style. Again, I don't know. These look like they're pressed clothes.
Look, she's got her happy face shirt on.
Yes,
I can see that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I think that's really, really, really cool. So now we can say that we have the core 8, including Melissa and the usual suspects, which we failed to mention in season 2, episode 1, that we've changed this to now also include Crystal and Jen, who were added as characters. And then we have the hobby factor, who has finally returned. And then we have the extra jackets who appear on screen. This is Proto Brit and red hair with braid. And then the missing jackets, okay? These people do not appear. which at this point we still think it's Proto Robin, right? The original one, number 15 and number 17. Okay. Same count of survivors. Moving into the next episode, we have another scene that we failed to mention last time. This is when Misty comes back after she's verbally pushed Crystal off the edge, but she has to tell everybody, we have to go look for her. We have to go look for her. So what you can tell when they're having that conversation and they're heading out the door, in the background, you see Season 2, Proto Brit. Again, very hard to see, but there she is because she's wearing the same head wrap she's wearing in the previous episode. So again, we have the same thing, the core 8, the usual suspects, the hobby factor. We have the extra jacket we see on screen, Proto Brit, and then the ones that we don't see on screen. And again, this is still a little nebulous until the next episode. Oh, and here we have
one
Crystal's
more death,
right? Crystal's death leads us down now to 18 presumed survivors, and we have 15 people appearing on screen. All right, now in the next episode, which is key, this is when Shauna is in labor and giving birth. This is kind of like a little bit of a dream sequence or something, but we do see the Proto Brit there in the background, and then we see the Proto Robin. Okay, so that's why now we can officially add her in. She is Kim Allison, background actor here. And again, here's some cool images. I couldn't really find these outfits though, so she probably is there more than we even can tell.
Yeah, probably.
You know, I don't know. Look, there's another little outfit. There's them coming out of their trailers there. Okay, so then in that episode, we have the core 8. We have the usual suspects. We have the extra jackets. Oh, and this episode, Javi doesn't appear, just so you know, but he's there. He's just not on screen. So we're going to put him in there with red hair with braid, who also does not appear in that episode. And the usual suspects is dropped down because Crystal is no longer with us. Missing still is number 15 and 17. Total presumed survivors is 18. Total count appearing on screen is 14. All right, we're going to pass through episode 7. There are no changes in that episode. We're going to go to episode 8. This is interesting. So last time that we did this, we had this scene where Mari sees the blood coming through the walls, but we didn't notice that Proto Brit was sleeping right there. And on another angle, we can see Proto Robin over there. And from this wider shot, we can see who we're going to call is the red hair with braid and the Proto Robin there. So as that scene continues...
Can I just call her Red Braid
You
instead?
could. You could call her Red Braid.
Shorten it up.
And then you see her coming through here, Proto Robin, there they are together. So those are the 3 extra jackets in season 2 that are all in the same scene. And we see them again, of course, in this other great image, which is the card draw. There you again have season 2 Proto Brit, season 2 Red Braid? Is that what you said?
Red Braid, yeah.
And season 2 Proto Robin. And then what's interesting is that we failed to show this before. After the card draw, they start running after Natalie. Season 2 Proto Robin joins the hunt. We never noticed that before. And then left behind, we see, there's Proto Robin leaving the door again. We see Proto Brit, and we'll see in the next image here, red hair with braid, red braid. They're staying behind to help Jen keep Travis occupied so that he can't go out and save his girlfriend, right?
Right.
Then as we get out onto the ice, we have Proto Robin there. Oh. So there she is. You don't really see her when they get to the close-ups, but in the faraway shots, you can see that she is part of that terrible moment where they let the poor gentleman die. And so we have the core 8, the usual suspects, the hobby factor appears, the extra jackets, all 3 of them appear in that episode, and the missing jackets are still number 15 and 17. And then we have another death here with Javi. They're dropping like flies.
Well,
so now our total count of presumed survivors after Javi's death, we're going to drop it down to 15. We're doing that because at this point, when you go back to the card draw, this important moment where everybody has to draw a card to decide whether or not they are hunted, we can imagine there's nobody else here at this point. We can't have this nebulous idea that maybe there's still somebody out there because they would be at the card draw. So at this point, we're going to change the count and we're going to say that there are only 15 survivors now, okay? But 16 appear on screen, and that's including Javi. Moving into the final episode
stressful, this one.
of season 2. Again, we show this final sequence here, which this has always been kind of up for debate because, you know, while we have the people coming out of the cabin while it's on fire, we do see this core group of people that are all represented, and some of them cover each other up. But we don't really see Jen. So we're going to assume that when we get to this wider shot as they go further and further back, that Jen has to be one of these people that's in this little huddle of 3. And then, of course, we already know that in season 3, Britt and Robin become characters. So we can assume that the other 2 are Proto-Britt and Proto-Robin. So what that means is, again, at the end of season 2, now we have to officially say goodbye to Red Hair with Braid again, because the season 1 background actor portraying her is no longer here, and neither is the season 2 background performer portraying her.
Sorry, Emma.
So we go to the count here is core 8 with the usual suspects, the Extrajackets who do appear, and then technically right now we have these missing people still that are unaccounted for. Red Hair with Braid, number 15, number 17, and now we will say that our total presumed survivors, based off the previous episode, is 15 with 14 appearing on screen.
Okay.
By the way, people in the comments when we did our first Extrajackets audit, they suggested that the third Extrajacket, right, that's missing, Red Hair with Braid, we're calling Red Braid, that she must have died in the fire, right? I mean, that sounds plausible enough.
They would have eaten her, though, if she had been in the fire. She would have been barbecued.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had to do any cooking at all. She's ready to go.
And probably they would be also more vengeful against who they thought burned the cabin down.
Exactly. I mean, at the very least, when they're doing the trial of Ben to show his culpability, they would have mentioned the person's name.
Right. So that's... No. Sorry, kids.
Okay. So now that brings us to season 3, right? Because in season 3, they actually do a little ritual. Do you remember? Towards the end... Oh, by the way, we should say that we have Britt and Robin officially as part of the cast now with names, right? We have Silvana Estefanos playing Britt, and we have Anissa Harris, I believe, portraying Robin. Oh, and Jen, the actress has changed. Remember, it was Maya Lowe, and now it's Vanessa Prasad, okay? When we get to the summer solstice ritual, though, at the end, Lottie makes a point of mentioning Javi, Jackie, and Shauna's baby. That's who they're honoring. These are the sacrifices that were made. It's interesting, though, because in this ritual, they do set up 5 of these lanterns.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
So that would be Laura Lee and Crystal. Laura Lee, Crystal. Why wouldn't they mention her name?
Well, it's weird. They never talk about Crystal ever again. They never even mention her name.
No, they do mention her a couple times.
Once.
They do mention her, I believe, in the trial, and they do mention her, I think, in episode 10. So maybe that could be it. Maybe that's who the 5 are. The others are Crystal and Laura Lee. But see, that's where it gets weird, because if they don't really talk about her as being missing, and they certainly don't talk about number 15, number 17, and Red Hair. So in my vision of this moment here, right, they show the little grave site, and we can assume that this is Javi, Shauna's baby, and Jackie. I want to remix it to be number 15, Red Hair with Braid.
Well, at least for us.
Right.
That's our version.
Exactly. It's just weird that they don't mention these people by voice, even if they have the lanterns. It just seems really strange. Anyway, also in this episode,
you never know. Maybe they would start using the terms that we've been saying, too.
Yes, exactly.
Red Braid.
Right, exactly.
Your lies, Red Braid.
And hey, they don't even remember their names at this point, right?
Yeah.
We have, again, this team photo. This never appeared before until episode 1 of season 3, but it's the same day. There's nothing new really to report here. It's all the same people, just kind of in a different order. This, again, was in the trophy case where we see now Natalie added to it. And this also appeared in Natalie's storage facility as part of her prized belongings. All right, so core 8, the usual suspects now changes because we are adding Robin and Britt. But then we still have these missing Extrajackets that are unaccounted for. At this point, we could say, based off the previous episode, that there should still be 15 people. But I think going forward, we're just going to cut that down. Why? Because at this point, I think, going into episodes 3 and 4, that at that point, they had already released the episode titles for the whole season. And we already knew that at a certain point, there was going to be 12 angry girls and 1 drunk Travis. That really spells it out, that there are only 12 girls at that point, plus Travis and Coach Ben. All right. So here we have episode 2, and we have the core 8, the usual suspects, and then these people are just missing. So it's kind of going to get a little boring, dare I say, because nothing really changes here for a while. We have only 14 survivors, as we just mentioned, and 14 people appear on screen. That happens again in episode 3. Here's just some long shots that show most of the cast. It's the same grouping, the same missing people, according to us. And again, same thing in episode 4, the same counts. Okay, nothing changes again, I believe, in episode 5. The only interesting thing of note here is that we do have these pictures that appear on adult Lottie's bedside table here, and we see this picture of Proto Crystal. Again, that would have been taken on the same day as the intro, right? That's the same grouping right there, right? And then what's also interesting is another one of her photos shows the previous Jen, played by Maya Lowe, in the same episode
of the new Jen,
where Vanessa Prasad is also portraying her. So that's kind of fun. But again, it's the same count, same survivors. Now, moving into episode 6, we're kind of now changing things because the village is changing, right? Because now we have some interlopers into our group, right? We have all the people here eating Coach Ben's spare ribs, but then all of a sudden the Froggers show up.
Yay, Froggers.
Yay, Froggers. Okay, so we go to our total count. We have the core 8. We have the usual suspects. We have the Frogger casualties. Well, yeah, we know they're going to be casualties. There they are, Hannah, Edwin, and Kodiak. And then we have also the missing jackets. They're still missing. They're still out there. We still have hope. Okay. We have a post-crash death, though, also in this episode, because this is when Coach Ben is killed.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's a mercy kill from Natalie, and then they eat him. Yeah. So now our total count of presumed survivors from the original plane crash is only 13, but the village now kind of has 16 people with the Frogger expedition included, and we have 17 appearing on screen. That's including Coach Ben earlier in the episode. Moving into episode 7, this is just kind of a pickup from where we were. The only difference is that we're going to officially show here that Coach Ben is no longer part of the usual suspects. So again, the total count of presumed survivors stays the same, 16 including the Frogger expedition. But in episode 8, at this point, we've also lost one of the Froggers because they killed Edward. Lottie killed Edward with the axe. So now we
That was a fast kill.
That was. That would have been a hardly knew ya, okay? So we have, again, our total presumed survivors from the flight is 13. Total count in the village, including the Froggers, is currently 15. Total appearing on screen, 15. And then in episode 9, it's the same thing. Even though Kodiak dies in this particular episode, his count will factor into the final episode, which is episode 10 of season 3. This is it. Full circle, just again showing you some of these longer shots here with most of the cast there represented. There's quite a few of these in this particular episode. Obviously, here they are deciding what to do. And then they decide to have the card draw, and everybody starts wearing their hunt costumes there. And it gets a little tricky as they start putting on these different masks and everything. This took us a long time.
Yeah, that was really tricky.
When we watched this episode, we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this shot, if you notice, I had to go back and forth multiple times. I was like, who is that? Who is that? It's the only outfit we never see again, other than like 2 seconds. This is Akila's hunt outfit, because the next time we see her, obviously she's going into the cave and she's removed whatever this mask is. So I don't know if anybody has a clear picture of what that is, but I couldn't really find it. Anyway, here we have, unfortunately, the Yellowjackets here at the final resting place of Mari. And then we have them assembled there for a promo shot and some other photos there.
These are such great shots, too.
Right. And of course, at that point, Hannah has already taken over for Natalie, who is on her way to deliver their message on the sat phone, right? So we have the core 8 here, the usual suspects that appear. We have Hannah now, who is absorbed into the tribe,
like I said,
clearly.
I talked about her last night.
Right.
And she was just
I
very
do
like,
hope that we get to see more of her in season
so
4. You know, I think what's happening with the season 4 filming, it's spread out over many months.
Yeah, I think
and I think there's going to be a lot of very individual scenes with all these different families now that they're, you know, the Yellowjackets are returning home. They're split up. They're not going to be together all the time. So we're going to have these little bits and pieces of Shauna's family and, you know, Natalie's family. And we know we're going to be seeing Travis's family. So I would like to see what happens with Hannah and that whole situation. Anyway, getting back to the count, we still have these missing jackets, right? We still have number 15, number 17, and red hair with braid. We still feel that they are unaccounted for out in the wilderness. So I guess as the thing in wrapping up here, I have to ask, what is their legacy, Doug? What do we think is going to happen? Did you know that they actually do have names?
No, I did not know.
Well,
that.
They're not official names. These are not
these are
in-universe
fan
names.
names?
These
Fan
are
names.
fan names.
Okay.
I want to introduce you to Jennifer, red hair with braid. Not Jen, but Jennifer.
Jennifer Red Braid.
Number 17, they call Alyssa.
Alyssa.
And number 15 is Gretchen.
Gretchen. Okay.
We're not saying that those are their names because that's not technically in universe. That's why we're calling red hair with braid. We have no other option because we never see her wearing a jersey, right? But here's the funny thing. I just saw this. Speaking of season 4, there was a social media post that Sophie and Elise just put up. I think this might have been from the dinner, the celebratory dinner where they started filming season 4. This must have been a gift or something that shows these kind of group images. And you see that there's that team photo being used again. And there are those extra jackets again, right? I mean, they are gone, but certainly not forgotten. They are forever haunting the Yellowjackets narrative. All right, I guess we should get back to the count here, right? One more time. We have again, sadly, another post-crash death in Mari. It is tragic. This is tragic. This is the pit girl from the beginning. The pit girl.
We know she's going to be around in season 4 because she's dating Kevin Elvis, right? Isn't that the deal? At least I've seen the pictures on some social media of her there. So if she's hanging out or maybe she's a ghost, we don't know.
Right. I hope so.
Hopefully they'll bring her like as a ghost. That would be fun, like a Jackie thing.
So we have the total count now of presumed survivors at 12. That includes 13 if you include Hannah as part of the tribe now. Total count appearing on screen is 14. Now, just for fun, we're going to look at what the count would be if red hair with braid was still included from season 2. We would have 13 survivors, 14 including Hannah at this point, meaning that, you know, there's still some people that need to be dealt with.
And somebody's getting hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, this is the count based off of the season 1. That would mean we would still have 15 survivors with number 15 and number 17, and that would be 16 people with the Frogger expedition, including Hannah, which you can see why production would be like, we got to whittle this down because how many of these deaths are we going to have?
Yeah.
But anyway, here we are officially. Total presumed survivors at the end of season 3 is 12, and the total count, including the Frogger expedition and Hannah, is 13. And I will say this, we've been talking about how sad this is that these 3 are missing in action. Wouldn't it be great, you were saying to me off camera, wouldn't it be great if we got some sort of tribute to them, some sort of mention, hey, even like an entire special episode honoring the legacy of these missing extra jackets who never made it back. Because you can imagine, just like all the other survivors, their families are going to be wondering,
I guess
where are they?
We're the people who are providing it.
Couldn't we, as part of the fandom, couldn't we just write our own spinoff? We could write our own spinoff as to what happened to these 3 people, right? We were going to call this episode originally, if you remember, we talked about it when we were doing our season 3 coverage, we were going to call this episode In Search of Number 15.
In Search of Number 15.
But now we have to call the whole series In Search of Number 15, Number 17, and Red Hair with Braid. All right, so there you have it. That is our Extra Jackets Audit version 2.0. Hopefully we have answered all of your questions. And if we haven't, then you know where to leave the comments right below. All right.
Yeah.
Now, coming up, we are going to be doing a return to Knots Landing season 3. So if you are a fan of that show, that is something to look forward to. We also have some ideas for some future Yellowjackets content, so be on the lookout for that. We want to send a thank you to everybody who helped us with the research of this episode. Thank you also our viewers for sticking around. What else, Doug? What else?
How about stay hungry, friends?
And we will see you then back on the sack. Bye-bye.